Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone this afternoon or this evening. Notice is hereby given of a workshop of the Board of Directors of the District to be held at 105 Port Road, Port Isabel, Texas on the 28th day of August 2019 at the hour of 4:30 p.m. for consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the District on August 22nd, 2019 at 2 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551-041, 551-050. We do have the presence of a quorum. Absent at this time, we have Dr. Lalonde and Adam Starkey. Sorry, Jason Starkey, for the record. They should be joining the meeting shortly. If I may please have everyone stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, please bless this day and let us have a wonderful meeting where we get to hear the updates and discuss our budget, and let us have sound, financial planning for the next fiscal year, and have good things to come. So these things in the name of Jesus Christ. And
We'll be moving along to item 3. Discuss an update on the general fund's proposed budget for the fiscal year 2019 through 2020.
Eddie Salazar, Director of Finance. I just want to remind you all that this is a workshop. So all of these numbers that we're going to discuss today are open to revision. None of these are set in stone. This is not an action item. So if there's anything that you guys have questions about, any changes that we would like to make, there's plenty of time to go ahead and
For the record, we have Board Member Dr. Lalonde joining the meeting.
gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you. So I want to begin by going over the updates I've made to the budget since the last workshop. After the last meeting, there were several items that I distributed and I mentioned as possible items to fund in the upcoming year's budget. I highlighted those in the memo that you all received. I just want to go over those now. These are one-time expenses. A replacement of Unit 38, which is a small vacuum truck used for hydro excavation, for $110,000. The administration generator, which would be a permanent generator for this building. It would be located we would build a small building to house this generator outside of this administration building. A distribution pump. This is a portable pump used for when they're trying to fix leaks. A wage study to identify the proper wages for our employees. Distribution trailers. We have 3 trailers that are in bad condition. They've already been repaired multiple times, and so we are recommending that those be replaced. There's also a new server for our building and the fence repair for our warehouse. So these updates were made in addition to updates based on new recent bid openings that we had for fuel and chemical costs. We also have some reductions. We have reductions in the administration department, the finance department, and the wastewater department. In the administration, now that we have budgeted the computer consultant as an employee position, we've eliminated the consultant.
Excuse me. For the Jason Starkey joining the meeting of the full board at this time.
So we've eliminated that amount that was budgeted for computer consulting. And the aeration pump, we recently had an aeration pump that was budgeted for next year's budget. It went down. It was something that is an emergency. We can't operate without it. So it was purchased in the current year. So made the update to the budget to reflect that, and also a reduction in the amount of bad debt expense. So now the projected revenues over expenditures after all these changes would be $109,750. So there is still, depending on what direction we want to go, there's some items that we could consider. So a parking lot expansion for this building, health insurance for dependents, if we want to help subsidize the cost for our employees to cover their dependents, or possibly a cost of living adjustment. So just want to remind you this.
I agree that a cost of living adjustment was something that we were just going to do every year.
This is.
Yeah, but this is like a proposed. I thought that was just something that's going to happen, part of our budget.
Well,
It changes.
I think that's a suggestion.
We didn't agree that that was an ongoing thing.
That wasn't my
No,
understanding.
it was brought up to bring a report back to the board, and that's all we brought back, a report.
Yeah, but I agree with Adam. I had thought we were going to do this and basically pay it in a lump sum around Christmas time.
No.
Well, it's in there for the reason if y'all wanted to do something this year, but last year.
The federal COLA changes annually.
Yeah.
That's adjusted on an annual basis.
So it's up to the board, but it's there. The report shows you how much it's up to today, right? The report that we have.
If I was to do it, we have that table of everybody's wages.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the year, I would just look back, what was the COLA for 2019? And then I would, if it was 1.4, then that table would go up 1.4% for all employees. And that's not necessarily something you just, it's not a bonus paid, it's just going into 2020 or whatever our fiscal year is. It would adjust at that point.
That's the way we
It may
calculated
not go up every year.
It might not go up every year. It could be zero.
It's evaluated every year, and on the federal level, it's evaluated every level, and sometimes it goes up, never goes down, sometimes it goes up, sometimes it doesn't.
Yes.
And it can change, it's never a constant number.
1.4 could be 2.3. I mean,
That's correct.
certainly if there was a big event that caused significant inflation in the country, then it would adjust for that and be beneficial to everybody. So
That's right.
And that's the
So-
reason we brought it up, because y'all requested the report for what it's gonna be this year, and that's what it is. If y'all
well,
decide
maybe we
to
can
do.
put it in the
Yes,
actual
yes, we
meeting
can. That's why.
agenda to
Right.
have just to one time, boom, we approve it, that the district will now provide a cost living adjustment at the end of the year for the next year ongoing, so that we don't always have to look.
Yes, Eddie had mentioned earlier in the beginning of the workshop that we can change anything, and it's up to the board, but that the information's available, and if y'all decide to do, we can do it now during the workshop. We can
Yes. This is
add or take away, but that's what
Yes.
it is.
Subject to the federally published,
Right.
Yeah.
yes.
and I don't know when they release that, I don't know what I think that is with the government physical, what the government physical is January.
They have it on a
Right.
monthly basis.
Monthly, yes,
Mhm.
and reports.
It's annual.
Yeah.
We only
Yeah.
want the annual.
And that's the way that we calculated. We took 12 months back, June to July, and this is how this was calculated, using the same formula that they used.
And when do you know when they publish that or release that annual number? Or
They
get the information?
They do theirs, I guess, starting in January.
Because that's what they use for Social Security.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. But so ours, using the same methodology we did ours, but from June to July. They do theirs from January to December. So that's how they calculate that.
It's up to the board what we can.
I would just take like the actual federal annual number they print without taking our own month-to-month average. And so like if 2018's was, let's say 1.5, then we'd either adjust on January 1st, our table, or you take that and carry it forward, and when our fiscal year starts, you apply it to that 1.5. Does that make sense as opposed to coming up with our own?
Yes. I think we did
Whatever you guys
last year
wanna
in
do.
December. The last one. What was it? I can't remember. But I know that you all talked about it like during December, and then I believe it was in December.
Well, we just need to do it somehow.
Okay.
Here,
So-
and I agree, but here's the thing I got a problem with. I don't think we need a wage study. You know, you've got a half a dozen districts, probably Cameron and Hidalgo, that you ought to be able to reach out and get their pay, how they pay and what steps. And you ought to be able to put that together and let us look at it. I would rather spend $35,000 towards health insurance than I would for a consultant to tell me something that you can tell me.
If I may add to that, the rate, first of all, the wage, or the step study came from a study that was done years back. Originally, that's how that was devised. And we added, or we came back like Dan Jackson, they came and did a supplemental to it because we had to increase the levels of that study. We were maxed out, pretty much the majority of the district staff members were maxed out, and they came and did a partial study, I remember, and I don't remember the exact numbers or the dollars that were spent. Is that possible we can do that again? Because that took everything into accordance with the same as the rate study, the state, the local, everything in there.
Yeah.
And it factored in the COLA and health insurance and all of the things that went along with it.
Yes, what we did is the last time we added 7 more steps, so we can work with 7 more years. Each step is for per year. So, but we can still bring that report back without spending on a consultant.
I'm with Herb on that because
Local rates.
That's who you're going to compete with. You're going to compete with PUB
PUB,
or
Harlingen.
Arlington or somebody.
Yeah.
I could tell you my thoughts on that because if you make a mistake on that, it can cost you a lot of money. If you classify the cost of a employee position and you pay everybody from that job incorrectly, let's say by $1, you multiply that times every employee
But Eddie, that's
for
what we
every
hire you
year.
for.
Right now, we have from 2007 was the last time a wage increase was done. You calculate that 12 years to now, we're talking about big dollars. I would recommend that we have a professional do a wage study. The last time we did it, it was in 2007, and it cost $35,000.
It was how much?
35,000. That's where this number is coming from.
This tree only has so many apples on it. And you can pick and pick and pick, but eventually you're going to pick them all off. And I'm just saying, I think as far as dollars spent and the work those dollars spent, and I'll use a comparison again, I would rather spend $35,000 to provide better insurance for our employees and then rely on you to take into account what other people are paying and come back to us. My thoughts.
And my thoughts on that would be similar in the sense that, as I look at the math, we have 109,750 leftover revenues over expenditures, but there's 157 I'd really like to spend tonight. And so taking that 35 out of the wage study for now would help us bridge that gap. I'm not a necessarily a proponent for letting you do all the legwork, but I would be open to tabling this until next year's budget meeting and maybe consider a wage study at that time. But we just added 7 steps. We did a significant COLA increase.
We have not added 7 steps.
I thought
Yes, we did.
We did.
Last
yeah.
year.
Last, yeah.
Okay, I
So
misunderstood,
that's-
excuse me.
No.
That's what I'm saying,
yes.
we can hold off 7
We added
years.
7 steps. Well, I'm not saying hold off 7 years either, but there was
Oh,
7
yeah.
additional steps added, and there was a COLA increase on that same night that was done to bridge,
Right.
to make up for what hasn't been done since 2007, which is when the last wage study was done. I'm in support of one should be done. I just don't think one should be done today, so that we can, get better health insurance for our families and kids and spouses. So I'm in support of that, in regards to using that $35,000 towards the health insurance, 50% for dependents proposal that's on here as well. And then, looking at wage studies next year. Because, we're already talking about doing another COLA increase of 1.4 and just letting that be a running deal and mirror the annual federal percentage. I think. And then my follow-up question would be like, how many employees have we lost this year? We lost a lot?
How many employees?
About 5, 6, 6?
About 5 or 6.
Yes.
We attribute those 5 or 6 to, and we lose them because of wage issues?
On an accident?
Yes, ma'am. It's wage. Okay, then there's still a need there, to look at that.
And they did
8% of
go to
the
the
workforce.
neighbors.
What level were they at?
Licensed
Yeah,
operators?
pretty much most of them were entry level.
Entry level, so we lost entry level guys.
Yes.
Entry level, and also some of them had already license.
Yeah.
Which would you
That
pay for?
license is a big factor, especially if they're moving somewhere else.
It's a value.
They want somebody,
Yeah.
yes, they have a lot of added value to it. And when they leave from here, the other places where they're going usually want somebody that's licensed already. So they get their license here, and once they get their license, they move on.
Do we lose to PUB the most?
In previous years, we have PUB and Harlingen. So
Harlingen, we lost a couple of them to Harlingen,
Yes, it was Harlingen and also Mercedes.
Mercedes.
Water.
And where do we hire from the most?
Local,
uh,
locally or
try to hire-
Brownsville. but
Entry
most of
level
them have been
beginning,
local.
entry level beginning mostly.
Yes. We can't find what we lose. Sometimes we lose a licensed operator and we have to start from the bottom again. Training and, so that's what it is.
The last 4 employees pretty much have been employees that we hired part-time, temporary help, because we hire them for the meters, and we hire them at $10 an hour. I guess where we failed to explain to them, because they moved from part-time into full-time, and when they go full-time, they lost the pay, actual pay goes down significantly because they're not being deducted for retirement, the 7%. And so that takes into effect when they hire full-time, and then they see the difference in wages and they move on to somewhere else.
You guys can
So
come
we
up
need
with
to
an
educate
HR
them as
solution
well.
to that,
I'm sorry?
right?
During orientation, I explained that to them.
Yeah,
No,
I've
but-
found in business, no matter how many times you explain that, once it actually happens, it's a different story.
It doesn't make, 7% to 40%.
What's gonna happen with the COLA, if we continue with the COLA, we'll eventually get to a competitive stage with PUB and others, because right now, the hiring, like for collections, it's at $9.90 an hour. And PUB is paying around $11. So that's why we're losing entry-level employees. The same thing with the water, they're a little over at $10.50 plus. They go to PUB or somewhere else, they're getting $11.80. So that's where the COLA will help to bring up the wage scale so that we'll be somewhat competitive.
Well, you got to assume that the PUB does a COLA also. But
Right.
the information you just gave us in the last 3 minutes is information that we could use to disseminate to determine if our base level pays are where they should be. Maybe that,
But I think you have to explain to the board how the STEP and the COLA work, because there's, you have to clarify some of how the STEP program works too. And and how often the steps apply.
Well,
I don't think that's fully understood, in my opinion, by we're having this discussion as we're having it.
The COLA increases the pay scale
Correct.
as a whole. Everybody will get 1.4. On the step, if they pass their evaluation, they go up one step higher. So it is an added, but.
And that's done annually.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And that's a different pay scale?
No, it's the same pay scale. It's in steps, but the COLA, we just add 1.4, as in this case, to the whole scale.
Yes, but the
What
next
the
step,
steps?
the next step is higher than the first step, and it's not just the 1.4.
No, it's a 2.5.
Yeah, well, see, I think Alex.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. It is a different pay scale.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
And
no,
every
that-
step is
that's-
2.5 higher, 2.5 higher for 7 more steps that we have, which means 7 more years.
And
The
that's-
only thing is that we can get that report that what they actually start off at PUB, what they actually start with Harlingen Waterworks. We'll get those numbers and bring them back to you. So that way y'all can see the numbers of the starting point and maybe the B licenses or C licenses.
But Mary had already kind of looked at that.
Yeah, I think we did some of that work last year, actually.
Yeah.
Some of it.
So,
The other thing is that we need to be more, I guess, more fair in our comparisons. We don't have a budget that PUB has. So I think if we're going to compare ourselves to anyone, we should compare ourselves to people or districts that have about the same size capacity and budget, to see how. I think that would be a more fair comparison.
Alex, excuse me, I don't think that's relevant size, because our customers, they use the water, they flush their toilets, and it doesn't matter if they're living in Port Isabel or Harlingen. It's all dollars and cents, and we have to compete in this market. So we
Job
can't-
market.
Yeah, in this job market. We can't say that we can pay less than Harlingen just because we're smaller. If we have that attitude, all the good people are going to Harlingen, and we lose out.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but by the same token, you're putting the load on a smaller budget. If you're going to be hiring people, if there's a set rate,
But we have bigger
if there's a
people.
set rate, for instance, for a particular operator in any particular department, and everybody has to pay that rate, okay? But that's not what we're talking about. You don't have to pay that rate. We're looking for a fair rate to pay. I'm not saying we have to pay the same thing we pay that POB pays, but it should be more comparable, and so I think to our budget.
I think it's all relative. One thing I would like to see is a budget that balances. I assume if this page came to our table tonight for the workshop purposes, all the items on it are wanted at some level by members of this organization. It's just it doesn't balance. I wish it balanced. And if health insurance and COLA and parking lots, really important to us, is it more important than a small vacuum truck? If we'd rather keep the wage study, what's the other item that, our group, because all we do is sit up here and try to put ourselves in your shoes. All I do is try to look through the scope of, what my wife works at a school, district, and I get insurance off of her job. That saves us a X amount of dollars, so I want to provide that for our employees. But I'd love to see, a page where the numbers add up. It's not always us overspending. Herb's right. We only got so many apples on the tree. With that said, I would like to think that these bottom line health insurance and COLA is probably among the most important things to our employees. Maybe even the wage study as well. So what's the one that we can part with for a year or a period of time? Would be my question to you guys.
I
So
think
it balances
part
out.
with wage study, parking lot expansion, basically balance it.
Balance it out. And that's what, once again, we're just trying to put ourselves in your shoes and what makes sense.
And that's all we're looking for, approval from the board for that. That's why we have them there.
And then next year, let's look at the wage study thing again. I think we've made large strides in just the brief amount of time that, I've been here. And not because because of me. I'm just saying what I've been witness to is a lot of advancement in both wages, steps, COLA, and now insurance. I think we've come a long way. I'm not saying we're there yet, but Rome wasn't built in a day. So that would just be my 2 cents, and I'll stop with that.
Okay, I'll do that.
So we got to make motions, Scott, or we just workshop? Just workshop.
Just a
So
workshop, yes.
proposing pulling out parking lot, pulling out wage study.
All these numbers are available to be changed.
And that way we can move forward with insurance and move forward. And the nod in the heads, it looks like that's the attractive. All right, let's do it then.
Thank you, yes.
You take, as you explained it to me the other day, the health insurance, so everybody on the board get a better grasp on the dependents and our lack of coverage and why, because I think it's important to know.
Yeah, so what I tried to do is I tried to think of out-of-the-box ways to reduce our premiums, because the premiums are going up. So what I did is I talked to our insurance agent, and he was telling me about, because we're a small organization, we're limited with the types of things that we can do. So I also talked to. I also found out that organizations like PUB are subsidizing their employees' coverage for health insurance. So combining those things, realized that we could get a lower premium if we had additional dependents. So we initiated a survey to survey our employees if how many potential dependents do we have among the employees and the staff. And what we found out was that only about 10% of our employees have coverage for their dependents, and those people are really the ones at the top of our wage scale. So we're talking about managers and administrators basically, and so 90% of the employees don't have any coverage for their dependents, and the reason is because of the cost. The cost is just too much, and so based on that, put together, I ran some numbers and tried to figure out what would be possible, what it would cost. So yes, our premiums would go down, our overall cost would go up, but what are we getting for that? Well, we're making it affordable for our employees. A lot of them that is outside their realm of possibilities right now of being able to provide health care for their families. We're making it possible for some of them to be able to cover their families.
And you're saying 50%, the district absorb 50% and they absorb 50%.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's
Do you
right.
have better numbers on this, or just discussion?
Yeah, I ran a few scenarios of.
I'd like to see some more of the numbers of what they are.
Sure.
We can provide more numbers. The thing is that more members that are applying for the insurance, we only have 80 employees now. They get a little bit over, but if it's under 100 employees, you get a certain amount, we get a high rate, a high cost on it. But if we get like 100 or more, including dependents, like spouses and spouses, the number would increase, and that would cut the cost down for the whole company. And that, in saying that, and then the company can pay some of that funding for the spouses and assist the employees in having the insurance for the dependents, the family.
We're going to need to get some numbers, really some close numbers on this, especially with physically looking at this for the long term, what the cost of, with the rising cost of this insurance at 15–18%, what that does in the next 3 to 5 years, in the long term providing. I know you just have to look, I know that everyone wants this and it's we also need to look at these numbers of where this goes going forward, because the rising costs, $600,000, how much was that insurance annually is $600,000, rising at 18% right now. We just came out of an 18%, where we had the last three years. And this insurance deal is a whole nother subject, a mess cost-wise, increasing everywhere. But we have to also physically look at this cost of what is going forward too. That's my opinion. I'm not saying don't do it, but I mean, we have to physically look at what this cost is.
So we'll bring the report back and.
Yeah, I can bring some scenarios. A lot of it is variable, like I stated at the bottom of the memo. You know, there's different cost tiers based on is it employee and spouse, is it employee and children, is it employee and family? There's different cost tiers, and you know, maybe somebody would like to cover their whole family, but they can't afford that, you know, and maybe they'll decide when presented with the numbers, maybe they'll decide, well, I'm just going to do myself and my children, and you know, not cover my spouse, because that's a big, you know, each employee's situation is going to be a little bit different.
Yes.
So it's hard to tell exactly what each employee is going to do, especially because this was, Jim, just hypothetical, you know.
And I think looking at what the deductibles are, and so there's a whole, it's more than just this answer and this number.
Different options.
Yes, we need to really look at all of
When
that.
you bring it back, the info I want to know is, what are the co-pays on things? Because I don't want to invest a lot of money into dependent coverage that's junky. Because then we're spending a bunch of money and people sign up for it, but then they never use it, right?
A cafeteria plan or
Yeah,
something.
you know, if it's something like, oh, the copay just to take my kid who's sick is $100, they're still not going to take them, right? So we're spending all this money, they're getting it, they're not using it, nobody's benefiting. It's a big loser. The insurance company wins. So
Yeah,
if we're going to do it, copay should be like, hey, kid's sick, going to the doctor, $20. They broke their arm, the emergency room, $200. You know, something that's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the children's copay zero or something?
And there's a lot that are like that.
Yeah.
So let's just make
Ours,
sure that
It's like
it's a
right
good-
now, we do have employees co-pay is $20, so.
You don't want to. Oh yeah, your kid's sick, but the prescription's going to be $200. So you went to the doctor, and our insurance is no good. So it's like nobody wins in that scenario except the insurance company. So
No,
let's make
Very
sure-
big evaluation to look when you're incorporating all of that.
Yeah.
Just a comment on that.
Yeah,
Let's
this
assume
is-
everybody gets coverage for their entire family. I'd like to see what those numbers look like, because that should be the goal here.
Okay, I'll bring you those numbers at the next meeting.
But I think it's clear that this board is interested in doing better for their employees.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And doing that sooner than later.
Okay.
But it does come to numbers.
Employees are.
Okay. So we'll proceed to the next item, which is the capital projects budget. So in your packet, if you skip forward to page 18, which is the revenue section of the capital projects fund. On this fund, you'll see the 5.4 million, which was received in the current year. We closed on that financing in June. That's the one that you see here on your board. It's for lift station rehabilitation, and we closed on that June 26th. And that's going to be the major source of funding for the projects, the majority of the projects. The rest of the projects in here are going to be funded with revenues coming in from the water and waste, our bills, right? Our revenue bills. 663,000 coming over from the general fund, and existing fund balance from the water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure funds, and so total, when you cover the amount being carried forward from the revenue bonds, I'm calculating that we'll have 6,213,000 available for capital projects. Now, for the specifics of the projects, I'll call Charles so that he can talk about each one of these projects individually.
We spending all that, or is there a prudent reserve involved in our capital fund?
I anticipate that we'll still have some fund balance available from our water and sewer infrastructure fund even after these projects.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, just starting on page 19, Fund 34 is our water infrastructure fund. And so the first line item on here is elevated storage tanks. And that's a budget number for our SCADA. Most of our sites have failed communication. We need to replace hardware and just finish out the upgrade. And so that budget number is really to cover all of our sites for the elevated storage tanks in our raw water system. And so that's the first item on here. The second item is the Island Avenue water line for $174,000, and that's an asbestos cement line on Island Avenue here in the Fingers, and the city's planning to pave it, so we're going to replace that water main and stay ahead of the paving job. So that's that item. And then the next one from the 7174 is adding a chlorine dioxide generator at water plant 1 in Port Isabel, and we just put $5,000 in there. It's basically to move our second generator at water plant 2 to set that up at water plant 1. Even if no improvements proceed, we can get our existing system on that stronger disinfectant right away, or get the project moving. And then 7175, that's adding the variable frequency drives at water plant 2, which was a request that didn't make the funding through Fund 1, but we're able to fit it in our funding on Fund 3. And then the last one is the water line upgrades. Those are the valves and the cosmic medians on the island, just to improve that reliability. So we're requesting $55,000 for insertion valves, so we're able to improve isolation points and have a better distribution system on the island when we have repairs and emergencies.
Will those replace some of the old butterfly valves?
Yeah, well, it's insertion valves to repair spots that are broken.
Charles, when I squirm around, that means I have a question, so sorry. So back to the first line item, the elevated storage tank. Walk me through that 380.
Yeah, it's a budget number from MPC. They're our SCADA provider. So it's our water plant 2 in Laguna Vista. Basically, they watch each elevated storage tank and each river pump station. And recently, the FCC changed our frequency, and so we've been forced to buy new hardware for all of our sites. And so we sort of.
Let me walk this back in layman's terms. So are we talking about like the water tower in LV and the water tower over here?
Yes, the 5 water towers.
I'm trying to differentiate between this line item and what's being discussed in our bond.
Yes, the bond is a reconstruction of the actual tank. This is restoring failed communications. So it's just getting the signals, like the pressure readings.
So even if we reconstruct this 380 proposed, it's still going to.
Yeah, we like the radios, the RTUs that get installed here.
We'll be able to use that in this project when it gets approved.
Right.
So this won't be wasted.
No, we'll be able to use it at the new sites.
Okay. Okay. So we're talking about communication systems between those. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you for explaining that. That's the only question I have.
Right. Any other questions on water? We can jump to the next one. On the next page, 35 is sewer infrastructure projects. And let's go to the next page. The first line item we have on here is clarifier number 3. We have a quote on here for 6,300, and that's to.
Where are you at?
Oh, on the top of page 20. The GL is 35, 17, 71, 60. So the first line item we're requesting funding is the clarifier 3 at Isla Blanca. That's the one where we had rebuilt the launders and baffles ourselves, but that weir isn't level. So that's a quote to get that weir level to help keep that flow uniform. It'll help us with compliance for our total suspended solids. And we were actually going to bump it up an additional $28,000 to cover the scum troughs. So we can there's some details components within that clarifier, so we can improve our wasting. And so that's another item that we'll adjust on.
expensive is that change?
28,000.
And that's going to be on the line item that we're talking about right now with the 6,300?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So that would come out of fund balance on that budget. So we're talking about sewer infrastructure.
Okay.
Actually, there is one other item. Jumping back to the water plant on 34.
Yes, sir.
The sludge lagoon.
34 what dash?
34 7170. The sludge lagoon.
7170?
Yeah, and that's our sludge lagoon we've already completed for the most part.
Yes, sir.
In-house. But there's we're still restoring that decant pump station, and there's the gate and motors that aren't going to arrive until after October 1st.
Estimated cost?
About 20,000. Yeah, and that's just so we can cover the expenses that when the stuff arrives here in October, November.
So we got 48,000 that's not on here so far, but we're okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I'm trying to avoid these as amendments down
Wish
the
I
road.
had these kind of counts. All right.
Yes.
Getting less amendments better.
All right, so guys, jump back to 35, sewer infrastructure. Next line item we have is 7174. That's the sewer pipe recap. And that's the funding we approved for Tarpon Avenue and the Fingers. And just to get that sewer line replaced, including the services, stay ahead of the paving job, coordinate with the city of Port Isabel. And then 7175.
Over there.
Yeah. Yeah, but buffer zone land purchase is the 2 acres behind the animal shelter. It's all tied to the Garcia Dougherty agreement, which I guess they're working on details where we're closing scheduled for November next year. So we're just keeping that.
Is it November of next year?
Yes, that's why it's no November 2019.
Okay.
November 2019. Yeah, I don't know if I can mention the IRS lien. That's what's okay. Yeah. Okay, that's the lien. So basically, yeah. So it's 51,500, and that rounds up the sewer infrastructure account there on
Tarpon?
Tarpon. Oh, well, no, the 295 is Tarpon. 51.5 is the 2 acres behind the animal shelter. And then the remainder of the capital budget just comes back over to 39 is our revenue from the Texas Water Development Board loan, and so basically those are the estimated construction costs. They're on here. We still got. Let's see if you jump down to 39. If you notice that there's still a good contingency in there from 431,154. So that's kind of giving us room to cover lift stations or with our bond projects. If some of that needs to come into the revenue side, I mean we have some room here to cover possibly that gravity main along Highway 100. So there's this is already what's part of our loan with TWDB, and so there's some room there to possibly cover some extra work, for the funding available. So that's basically how all the list in 39 is built in, and that rounds out the final budget.
So after all these projects would be completed, we would still have available some fund balance. So this is using some of our fund balance, but not all of it. So
You
these
include the extra
changes
48,000?
with the 48,000 will come out of this the figure that you see on page 21, the 445,801 would just be reduced down to 398.
Sorry, where do I see that figure again?
So on page 21, bottom right-hand corner, 445,801.
Yes, sir. All right. That would be less 48, and then we'd still be roughly at the 390.
Yes, 398.
398.
That's our fund balance.
Yes. So that's right.
reason that agenda item was there because
It was tabled
we all
last time.
tabled it last time. We're just gonna try to.
If you remember when we did all this, she also had an add-on that would enable us to detect leaks in the old iron infrastructure. You know what I'm talking about, Charles?
Yeah, but the problem is most of our pipe has most segments are PVC,
So,
and so that would kill the signal for any kind of leak detection. So that's really why.
they were in the testing phase of being able to use those systems on PVC, weren't they?
No, they've always had the stance that on PVC pipe, the signal would be to have it included.
My comment is, I'm glad we didn't meet at 3:30 today. It's a great decision. Thank you, everybody. That's good.
So Sherman comes back, we can close
Adjourn the workshop.
vice.
I'm not the vice. I have vices, but I'm not the vice.
What do you guys-
He said he had to make a call, but